really excited to share what really is a new energetic discovery with you. So today I'm going to be discussing and defining three things: what a movement is, a vision for humanity, and a company vision. So this is based on some of my energetic discoveries, I'm calling it, over the past few months. So I want to start by asking a question, which you can put your answer into the chat. So my question is, are you leading a company or a movement? So this is whether you have your own business, you could be in a leadership position within a company. So just whatever comes to you right now without knowing the exact definitions. Are you leading a company or a movement? I'm going to talk about my definitions of those words, what they mean and how they tie in together. But first I want to take you back to an experience I had in Bali, in Ubud, in September 2019. So just a few months ago, or I guess 6 months ago now. So I was catching up with my friend Mikey Siegel. Some of you might know him. He's the founder of Consciousness Hacking, formerly out of the Bay Area, and he's now in Santa Barbara. So he said something to me, I think it was at this awesome plant-based restaurant that we're hanging out at a lot. And he said, I hold a vision for humanity and everything forms around that. So just think about those words. I hold a vision for humanity and everything forms around that. So what's everything? Everything is the business, the people you attract, your products, your services. So just that one statement, I hold a vision for humanity and everything forms around that. I took that in when he said that. I didn't ask any questions. It was just that one statement. And over the next few weeks, because I was there on holiday, I started to really feel the energy of that statement. What does that mean? What does that feel like? How does that change my business? How have I already done that with clients? You know, it was just such a powerful statement. And first I want to say, when I say holding a vision for humanity, it sounds very visionary, but it sounds like seeing, okay? So I want to state that you can also hold a vision for humanity by feeling the vision, okay? You can also hold a vision by knowing the vision and by hearing a vision, okay? So we're engaging all of our senses and intuitive abilities. It doesn't have to be literally seeing it. So in my case, I do work mostly with seeing and hearing, but for some reason when I talk about the vision for humanity, for me it's mostly feeling the vision. So I just want to mention that in case you're having problems with the seeing part. So the more I felt into it, the more I explored, I started to realize that the significant difference between holding a vision for humanity and holding a company vision, which is what we're used to doing, right, is, and I'll go into more details about how they're different. But basically the main difference is energetically you move away from what I call the ego. So the ego is I, me. And also you move away from the company-based we. So when you're saying we as a company, it's similar to I, me. It's like a similar energy. So that was the first thing that I noticed. And when you move into that energy of a vision for humanity, you start to tap into the collective, what I call we go. So instead of I go, we go. So it's about we, a collective based we. And so that was the significant energy shift that I felt by looking at the vision for humanity versus a company vision. And the second thing was I started to look at how could I relate that to some of the work that I've done? So when I was in Boulder in 2018, working with a lot of socially conscious impact leaders, leaders of impact businesses, and I was doing a process called a blueprint, which was it's a marketing strategy process. And although what I discovered from that was they were all leading movements, okay, first and foremost. Some of them were aware of it, but because they were so focused on the company vision, they weren't gaining as much traction with their movement, or you could say they were kind of like a little bit heads down, even though they were building a movement. So I realized that if they took more of a vision for humanity, or they tied the vision for humanity into the company vision, then your vision widens, right? And you don't get so caught up or attached to the company or expectations or identifications that you have if you're strictly focused on the company vision. So the vision was there for them, but it wasn't front and center, the vision for humanity, because they were so focused on the company vision. And I'm going to go into more details and definition. But the first thing, I'm going to make a statement that you can primarily, as a leader, you can primarily choose to hold one of two visions, a company vision or a vision for humanity. And I use the word primarily, okay? I'm not saying that you can't hold both, because obviously if you've got a vision for humanity, a company or companies are a vehicle to achieve that. So it is important to be focused on that too. But if you're strictly focused on the company vision, then there's an energy of limitation. And I'll go into more details. But first I wanted to define the word movement and what the word movement means to me, because it's a big word. And the reason that it's coming up a lot more now is because we're currently in the time of awakening and evolution on the planet. Would everyone agree? You can nod your heads. So, you know, in the last few months, the planet has shifted in such a big way, a way that has been prophesized by the Mayans, by many other groups, a way that all of us as conscious leaders knew was going to happen eventually. And boy, did that happen in such a global way, right? Like just all at once affected every single country in the world. So this is the time of awakening. This is the time for evolution for humanity. And it's also the time that solutions and restructures are needed now. And it's up to us as the conscious leaders to bring about these solutions. How are these solutions going to come through? A movement, okay, is what I believe. That's a powerful way to change the status quo. It's a powerful way to disrupt and break what isn't working. And movements have been used in the past a lot, obviously. We know a lot of them from the past 100 years. Revolutions, movements. Really, that's why I want to focus on the word movement. And that's why I believe that that's what's important right now. And also, the good thing about a movement is it extends beyond yourself. Okay, so when you're creating a movement versus a company, it's more than you, and it takes more than you, right? It takes a group, it's participatory, it's a collective, and it's also a way to show up in service. So it's a way for you to say, how can I serve versus what can I get, right? And then that commitment of showing up in service puts you in a heart space. And it also allows you to co-lead a certain container, you know, so movements are co-led. And if they haven't been as much in the past, then that's what we're shifting into. We're shifting into more co-creation. So we can look to the past a little bit, but things have changed a lot now, that things are going to be done in a different way, even if they worked before. So my definition of a movement is that a movement takes a collective we-based approach. Okay, so it's a unified solution for humanity, the environment, and the animals. So it considers all. It reshapes how we exist as a society, and it redefines existing structures, models, and ways of existing. So it's a way to redefine, reshape, and it considers all. And what are the characteristics of a movement? First of all, they're timely, okay? So a movement only comes at the right time. So movements in the past came exactly when they were needed to disrupt or reshape. Another thing about a movement is they require a lot of energy to push and shift. So you can look at it like a rebirth, which is what's happening on the planet right now. It's a rebirth, awakening of consciousness, creating a new human, reforming of DNA, however deep you want to get into it. So the birthing process can be tough, it can be painful, right? So that's something to consider. It doesn't mean that a movement is just going to be adopted by everybody and be a breeze. It takes energy, which is why a lot of people are involved in it. And a big thing is it requires education. Okay, so it's new. So people need to know why it's important. And it also requires holding a vision. So a movement will come through holding a vision, first and foremost, which is why I'm going to talk about Vision for Humanity. It requires a steady and consistent energy. So if there's opposition, you keep going, you keep moving, you stay strong. And lastly, it's collaborative and co-creative. So that's my understanding and definition of a movement. So I want to talk about what I believe is the true pathway to impact. So the true pathway to impact is holding a vision that holds a unified solution for humanity and the environment. It builds a movement and it reshapes how we coexist as a society. Now that I've told you what I feel a movement is and some of the characteristics, and just to give you some background, what I forgot to mention in the beginning is my calling is to support visionaries and individuals that are leading movements. For some reason, the universe, my higher self, God, whatever you want to call it, seems to be giving me insights on how this can happen, which started in my marketing work. With intuition, I just was able to see exactly how that individual, what movement they were creating, the exact steps of how they needed to succeed in creating that movement, and what shifts they needed to make in their business and leadership to actually carry out that movement. So for some reason, that's what I seem to be given as my purpose. So I'm able to feel and see and really hear how particular movements, when I'm working with people, are going to be successful, and as a collective, like how movements are now going to work. And the same with visionaries. So that's just a bit of a background why I'm talking about this. I'm going to speak about the company vision. So a company vision really is focusing on how a company solves a problem for a customer, organization, group, environment. So if you look at the traditional business structure, or why a business exists, it's providing a product or service in exchange for something, right? And that product or service usually has a benefit, or it solves a problem for the people that are receiving it. So that's a company vision, and that's how companies usually, that's what they focus on. So it's made up of three parts that exist in the current state. So you've got the customer, so it could be a company, a group, the environment. You've got the problem or challenge that they have, and then you've got why your company exists and how you're solving that problem. So in other words, you could say, as a company, we help X achieve or do X through, and then their product or service. So one thing to note is that when they say we, they're just talking about the company here. They're not talking about the collective. So if we look at a vision for humanity, you can already feel the energy is more expansive, right? Just by looking at it. So vision for humanity involves accessing a higher vision of how society or planet can evolve. So it's focused on the future state rather than the present state. And the we, instead of being focused on the company, it talks about the collective. It's a unified we that involves society and the planet. So you can already feel that it takes a much more expansive approach. It's not about we, the company. So even though a company is a tool to actually achieve this. So the three parts are a group of people, animals or nature, the future state that they're positioned or that they'll be living in, and then a process or pathway to get to the future state. So in other words, we see X doing or achieving X through X, which is like the pathway and the solution. So just briefly, if you're strictly taking a company vision, some of the limitations are that, first of all, the we is only focused on you, so that's already a limited energy, we'll say. Second of all, and this is what I found working with a lot of visionaries that are only focused on their company vision or mostly focused, they get attached to their products or services and they lose sight of their overall mission. They get so obsessed with the products or services that they could be holding on to something that is ready to evolve or that's no longer needed, and then they're not innovating. And this happened. I did a blueprint session with somebody that invested a lot of money in a tech startup for good. And then it was discovered that there was something else she needed to focus her energy on. And she was so attached to the money and the investment, even though she knew it didn't feel right, that she couldn't actually move on with her purpose or her achieving her vision. The other thing is that it's a narrow focus to a present problem if you take a company vision. So it prevents you from seeing a bigger picture and delivering long-term solutions. You're so focused on a problem that you're solving that could have been a problem from the past that isn't that relevant anymore, or isn't, can't evolve society to a high level. And it also stops you from collaborating because you're so focused on scarcity and competition when you're taking a company view only. So there's some of the limitations, and I want to go now into what happens when you lead with a vision for humanity primarily, okay? Not to say that you can't take some sort of a company vision. So first of all, you lead from service. So we get rid of this I, me, we as the company, and you're just like, how can I lead? How can I co-lead? What vision is coming to me? And keep in mind that a vision for humanity is not necessarily something that you have to find or look for. It's something that comes to you. So you just need to create the spaciousness. You need to be connected to your intuition and find out what is the universe, what is your higher self, what is, connected to your purpose, giving you as your vision for humanity. As I said, for me, for some reason, it became clear that I know how to work with movements. I'm meant to lead a movement. And I've got I seem to get a lot of downloads and insights around that. So that came to me. It wasn't something I went off and chose, so to speak. So if you're not sure what it is, give yourself the spaciousness to receive it. When you lead with a vision for humanity, you allow products, services, partnerships, staff, customers, and the world to align around you and your vision in the natural way that evolves at the right time. So unlike when you're leading with a company vision, you're not out there trying to get and do and control and I need this. Things come to you. Okay, so you're attracting and inviting rather than getting. So it's a more feminine quality, right? So we're balancing the masculine and feminine here. So similar to what Mikey said, how he says you hold the vision and then everything forms around that. So rather than creating products or services to form revenue, which is a company vision, what products and services are going to make us the right money, or like how can we package it around revenue? When you're leading with a vision for humanity, the vehicles to generate revenue form around you. It's the opposite approach. So it becomes clear. So that's what happened with visionary sessions. It wasn't something I went out and formed myself. It was a download that I received with the structure. Again, you hold the vision, you be open, and then the products and services that you're meant to create with that vision will come to you. It'll come through an idea. It'll come through someone offering it to you. It'll feel in alignment. It'll feel right. It's a completely different energy than going out and forcing and creating and controlling. You become comfortable in the unknown. Okay, that includes processes and strategies. You don't have to have the whole strategic plan, and I'm a strategist saying that. Okay, so you go step by step. What shows up in front of you, you do. The next step will come. You don't have to have the whole plan. Give yourself permission to be okay with that. Your energy becomes more expansive when you're not attached to a business vision or product. So yeah, as I said, energy is not limited. There's more room to co-create and partner with others because you have a cause. You become a speaking voice for your vision and you attract people that want to align with your vision and cause. So you're calling in co-creation. You're not forcing partnerships or looking at people as competitors. It's a vision that a lot of you can contribute, participate in, and hold space with. Your marketing transforms into cause marketing. If you haven't heard of cause marketing before, it's like where your story and everything that you do in marketing is around the cause. It's not about us, look how good we are, buy our products, like that kind of energy. And you're open to products and services coming and going while you remain centered in your vision, because products and services are not meant to be around forever. They're timely. They're solving a problem at that time. And then maybe that problem is solved and then there's something else. So it allows space for that. And lastly, a vision for humanity is inclusionary. So you attract customers that resonate with and buy into your vision. You give them a platform to participate and contribute to this vision. Okay, so it's not trying to hold all the control. It's about allowing, inviting, including. And your focus is not on how, you're focusing on what. So you stay focused on the vision. You're not trying to work out how it's going to come about and get caught up in that fear or that control. So that's it from me. Thank you.